Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So just requesting everyone to take a seat and then we'll get started. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to this session of Achieving Excellence Through Collective Action and Benefit to Humanity. This is the parallel session, and the title of this parallel session is AI Software Innovations, Transforming Research and Development. So AI, as we all know, artificial intelligence has kind of taken over the world, kind of considered the next big revolution in terms of productivity, in terms of economy, scientific innovations. And so I think this is a very timely topic. I'm very interested in trying to understand what our own Ahmadi scientists are doing. Not only that, what can we as Ahmadi scientists do to benefit humanity through this technology of artificial intelligence. So today's topic, I think, is very interesting because we're going to have three very nice, diverse speakers who are going to touch on AI in a very common way, but also in their unique individual way as well. Our first speaker is going to be Dr. Zainull Abiddin Daniyal. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Theoretical Physics, and he's the CEO of a company, Machine Learning Sense. It's an AI consultancy based in London. He's specializing in developing AI-powered products, and he recently launched Translation Lab, is what it's called, and it enables translation of any book into any language and style. Our second speaker is Adeel Malik. He's the CEO and co-founder of a company called ClearStep. This is an AI-driven patient navigation company. He's raised over $12 million, this company, from leading venture capital firms. Under his leadership, it's partnered with major US healthcare institutions, and it's shown to already impact care across more than 300 hospitals. And our final speaker is going to be Dr. Rafi Ahmad. He's a PhD computer scientist, and he's published a lot of peer-reviewed research papers. He's written several books and chapters. He's also an inventor on 33 United States patents, mashallah. He's given several keynote talks as well. Right now, he's serving as an architect at Oracle. Oracle Corporation, as you all know, it's a big, big software development company, computer science company. He's currently serving as Talim Education Secretary of the Silicon Valley chapter, and he continuously is engaged in developing articles and presentations. So our brief, just to give a brief overview, we're going to go into the three talks one by one. We're going to start with Daniyal Saab's presentation. Each presenter will give their topic, and if you guys have any questions, please note them down. After the end of the three presentations, we'll open the panel for question and answer. So with that, I'll introduce our first speaker, Daniyal Saab. His title is called Scaling Intelligence, How Large Language Models Are Changing the Game. Daniyal Saab.
Assalamu alaikum. So you've heard the title. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Okay. So basically, I'm going to share some insights from industry, and then at the end, we'll share how we can view insights and also how we can keep on progressing with AI. So the first insight is that Shopify's AI first mandate, it was actually a leaked memo, and then because it was leaked, the CEO of Shopify released it himself as well. And what it shows is that you have to try and use AI first, because AI now can do tasks autonomously, and it requires digital skills. It requires sort of new type of skills to understand how AI works and what type of things AI can do. Therefore, it's much important to actually try and force yourself to use those skills and learn those skills. And one of the things they mentioned in their mandate is that you have to justify why AI agent cannot do the job before trying to hire someone new. So this is the really interesting insight, and I ask you to go and read about it. And this is something that's going to impact, and obviously there will be a spectrum of companies who are adapting AI in different ways. Shopify's mandate seems to be the most forefront in this. The next insight is that the real reason why AI is taking off so fast. The biggest reason is that AI is actually doing real work. So if you compare it to the previous wave, if you had a CRM, and a startup was basically creating a new CRM and saying our CRM is like 10x better than previous CRMs, what happens is, the issue is in training, in rolling that CRM out, the whole company has to come with the journey. And that sometimes is subjective, and the productivity gains are sort of like just productivity gains, subjective, difficult to measure. So that's where you have like long sales cycles, like 9 to 24 months. Whereas AI, the promise is that one software engineer with cursor is able to do work of 3 software engineers, provided that software engineers understands how to use cursor effectively. And 3 software engineers can do the work of 10, and 10 software engineers can do the work of 50 if they have the right tools and they have the right training. So that's where AI's impact is massive, because it's actually doing real work rather than just subjective productivity gains. Okay. The next thing is that programming or natural language, because obviously with LLMs, we interact with them now in English, and that also means we can interact with them in other languages, in our own languages. And what that means is, if we all can speak English, we can all understand English. So what sets us apart is basically our communication skills and our critical thinking. So those are the 2 bits I'll touch upon later as well. The other thing is that it makes programming accessible to everyone. At least the simple apps and simple concepts, they can be created very, very easily, very, very fast. So that's where the whole world is shifting. So the other bit I want to highlight is that Andre Karpathy very recently in his talk mentioned how should we design our systems. And one of the things that he mentioned was we should create systems that are flexible, where a human in the loop can come in. And it's not necessarily about ethical reasons. It's actually because when you have an AI system and you have a pipeline, say 4 steps, each step where AI is taking some action, there's probably about 10% error. And now if you have like 4 steps, that 10% error gets multiplied, and the end result is really bad. So in order to reduce the error, it's better to have the human in the loop. That actually makes the whole process much better, much more effective and efficient. So that's where even though AI is here, that means we have to, if we want to really effectively take advantage of this, we have to design the systems that have human in the loop to have the best impact possible. And when that happens, obviously this means that our jobs are changing. Some obviously will be lost, but a lot of jobs will be changing in how we actually work with systems rather than simply completely going away. The next thing I want to show is that this is a graph which basically shows red lines, which are regulated fields or regulated sectors, and the blue are unregulated sectors. And what happens is, in regulated sectors, things get more and more expensive, And unregulated sectors, things get more and more cheaper. And what's going to happen is that, this is actually an insight from Mark Anderson, where he basically talked about that what's going to happen is that not all jobs will be lost in the same way. Some are going to be protected by regulation, such as, say, in medical fields and maybe some insurance as well. In certain countries like, say, France and Germany, where jobs are protected by regulation, they will be the uptake of AI will be very different, maybe very slow. Whereas in places where there's no regulation, the uptake of AI will be much faster, and it will be the work will change, the way we work will change as well. So that's something to take a note that it's not all like doom and gloom. The jobs are going to change, and how they're going to change is going to be very different in different places. The next part is basically probably good news for most of these, most people here, if you're working in, say, IT or similar fields, that what actually happens in companies is that the budget allocated for software is between 3 to 7%. And that's currently without AI. Now that AI is able to do, obviously, real work, and also it's able to do real work in not just software, but also in research, in finance, in sales, marketing, operations. So when that happens, then it's very much likely that the budget allocated for AI is much higher. Rather than sticking at about 7%, it's likely to go all the way to 50%. Because normally in companies, sales budget sometimes is like 20%, 30%. Marketing budget is also like 20, 30%. And when AI is able to do those jobs, that means that budget is going to be allocated to AI. And when that happens, then what happens is, obviously, the people who are working in sales and marketing are likely to go towards AI. So that's where the jobs are going to probably shift as well. So that sort of thing would likely to happen. Another one is, so Mark Cuban's basically, urgent learning sort of guidance. This is basically, it's so important. The reason is that, so he basically mentioned two things separately, that, I'm always trying to learn every 3 months what's new and what's now possible with AI that was not possible before. And second thing he mentioned, that if he was really like a 20-year-old kid, he would be spending all his time trying to learn about what AI can do. And what's interesting is that I have to, as someone who is always like trying to see what AI is able to do, I have to constantly learn a new technology or a new pattern of using the similar technology every few weeks. And the reason is that even if nothing big comes out, like say, okay, GPT-4, the architecture changes have been much different since GPT-4 came out. Even then, what happens is, because the pricing goes down on AI, on the token usage, what was 50 grand, what costed say $50,000 just about say 3 years ago or 2 years ago, now costs about $1,000. So then what was impossible now becomes possible. So because of that, there's a batch API, which means that you can process lots of data in parallel, and you can get the output you're looking for in minutes rather than in hours or weeks. So that's another thing that basically learning is extremely important, because the field is changing really fast right now. Okay, so what's coming next? Massive rewrite of software. There will be rise of personal AI computing and LLM-specific interfaces. More specific, I would say, voice interfaces is going to become much, much more common. We're going to start using voice for interacting with computers much more than ever before. And it's going to understand your Punjabi accents. It's not only going to understand your Punjabi accent, it's going to actually understand Punjabi as well. So feel free to speak in any language. Okay, so the next part is, this is my last point, and probably the most important point. So the Prophet ﷺ says that if you were to take a leaf of a tree and you were to study it for 1,000 years, the 1,000 years would finish, but the wonders or the discoveries you would get from that leaf would not finish. And then he says the reason is, anything that is brought into existence by an infinite power must necessarily contain infinite wonders and properties. So this is a very interesting principle. And without this principle, even I was thinking, oh my God, AGI is going to take over and we are all going to lose our jobs. And you know what, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I have another point to make. So there are 2 verses in the Holy Quran which are talking about the similar idea, and you probably have heard about them, the pen and the ink, ocean and the trees concept. I sort of combined that 2 verses into a single sentence. And what it says is that if you turned every tree into pens and made ink from all the water from every ocean, and then you multiplied that ocean by any number of more oceans, and then to top it all off, you doubled it further, even then you would not be able to write and exhaust the knowledge of God with those resources. So what that points us that in the universe we live in, we have infinite knowledge, infinite scope of discovery, even though we have finite resources. So there's no way we can actually discover things and find everything out.
This is the verse from Surah Kaf.
Yes. Yeah. I've pointed out the verses are here. So the point here is that there's a project, obviously you're aware of, a $500 billion nuclear-powered Stargate AI project, really amazing project, really big, already underway, and there's a competing project from Elon Musk, and there'll be probably more competing projects. What's going to happen is that's all great, and we came out with this concept of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and we had this. There was a promise that it's going to take over. It's going to be PhD level intelligence, and it's really powerful. It's going to be better than everyone. And then there's a new concept of artificial superintelligence, which is trying to say that AGI is already achieved, even though it's debatable. And even say in 2 years' time, it's likely that there will be like another term coined, maybe artificial hyperintelligence or something, right? And the thing is that some of it is very useful to keep the hype going. But the thing is that we will never reach a point where we actually are able to discover things. Even if we're able to discover things much faster, 500x times faster, even then, we still have a lot to discover, a lot to work on, and a lot to do as humanity. So the thing is that if you're in AI or if you're trying to get into AI, I would say, you know what, go full speed ahead. It's all good. So that basically is it. This is basically the last slide on key takeaways. But yeah, this is it. Thank you.
Jazakallah jaza. We're going to hold questions until the end, so make sure you write down your questions so you don't forget. We're going to move on to our second speaker now. This is Adeel Malik Saab. His title is called Redefining Healthcare, the AI-Powered Future.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. So, oops. Do I have to pull up my presentation? Or?
Just keep going.
I think this is just one presentation in there. Okay, maybe. All right. So today, inshallah, I'll talk to you about what's happening in healthcare as it relates to AI. And we'll then look towards some guidance that we can get from Quran and Khalifatul Masih on this topic. And then I'll go deeper into my specific area of expertise within AI and healthcare. There's a lot that's going on, and it's hard to kind of think of everything or be able to present on everything. But just to put it in some context right now, healthcare has some huge challenges that are currently being faced. I'm not going to read everything on this slide, but there's a lot of cost challenges. 50% of people say they can't afford a $500 healthcare bill. 20% of people in this country say if they got a $500 healthcare bill, they can't pay it at all. There are major access barriers. 60% of healthcare leaders say they don't have the clinicians on staff to actually be able to deliver the full scale of resources that they want to, or services that they want to be able to deliver. Patients, and we probably experience this ourselves, often wait weeks or months for specialty care appointments if needed, or referrals. There's right now a lot of concern around insurance loss with Medicare and Medicaid. The healthcare system itself is super complex to navigate. Even when people have benefits in their insurance plan that are covered, they don't know how to access them. And then there's major quality concerns. Despite spending the most on healthcare, I think people know this very commonly in the U.S. We have higher infant maternity mortality rates than our peers, lower life expectancies than other countries in the West. So there's a lot of pressure on the healthcare system, and the opportunity in front of us is that AI, if deployed well and intelligently, which there are many use cases already emerging, already growing very fast, can actually help us solve some of these problems. I'm not gonna read everything on this, but I've kind of bulleted out what are some of the areas where we can see that AI is already kind of gaining a foothold or starting to grow. As it relates to cost and affordability, big hospital systems and insurance plans are looking at how can we reduce our administrative costs by automating a lot of tasks so that more resources are created to deploy and invest in hiring more clinicians or training more clinicians, et cetera. Access is one of the areas that I'll go deeper into. This is where my company really plays in kind of the creating better access to care. So I'll kind of pause on that one. Insurance loss, there are really interesting models of AI-driven primary care doctors. Maybe that will come in the future, but basically an AI that can really play the role largely of what primary care does to quarterback your care. And then just the complexity that I alluded to is being solved by just better patient experiences that can help guide you through the resources that you have to navigate healthcare. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of interesting use cases that are growing really rapidly. This is just a bullet list of some of them, but you can do major deep dives into every single one of these little areas that I pointed out. But I wanted to give at least a little bit of high-level context as to what are some of the key areas that we're already seeing, and that I have colleagues and friends and some of my investors are investing into a lot of these areas, so I have a little bit of visibility. But quality shortfalls, I didn't hit the last one, but diagnostic accuracy is actually a really interesting one. Clinician decision support tools to help providers make sure that they're not missing things, et cetera. So there are probably many places in the Quran, and I hope to myself be trying to dive in deeper and trying to find areas that can relate to my field of work and AI in general. But there are some basic concepts that that I pulled here that we can keep in mind when we think of AI use cases and deploying AI. The first is this verse from Surah Baqarah that in English says, "And cast not yourselves into ruin with your own hands." And I'll go ahead and read the second verse as well from chapter 49 that says, "O ye who believe, if an unrighteous person brings you any news, ascertain the correctness of the report fully, lest you harm a people in ignorance, and then become repentant for what you have done." And both of these can be extended to this concept that was alluded to in the previous talk too, of kind of human in the loop processes and vetting information that comes through. We're right now in a bit of a dangerous time with potential over-reliance in people's day-to-day work with large language models and ChatGPTs of the world, where maybe the right diligence isn't being taken to vet information, and particularly when it comes to regulated fields and use cases that involve clinician-patient interactions, et cetera. We really need to keep these concepts in mind to make sure, to our fullest extent, that we're as confident as we can be that the information being provided is actually valid and accurate. And Huzur Anwar has given some really good insights in the same vein, actually. In two mulaqats, there are two mulaqats that were on This Week with Hazur, maybe the last 2 years, where the topic of AI was brought up. And I'm not even going to try to play. There is a video linked here. I'm not going to try to play, but I did pull it up on my own computer where I'll just like play a little bits of audio from this so that we can hear a little bit, maybe about. I'll skip to 2 different parts in the video, but we can hear a little bit in Hazur's own words as to his guidance on the question to Hazur was, is AI good or bad?
ये आजकल के जो सिस्टम है ना ये सारे AI आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस जो है इसमें अच्छाइयाँ भी हैं, इससे अच्छे नेक काम भी हो सकते हैं और तर्जुमे के अच्छे काम भी हो सकते हैं। हमारे बाज़ लोग इससे फ़ायदा उठाते हैं और काम करते हैं, लेकिन सारा टोटली इसके ऊपर रिलाई करना, इस पर डिपेंड करना ये भी सही नहीं, क्योंकि बाद में फिर देखना पड़ता है हमारी दीनी किताबें में मसला अगर हम इसको तर्जुमा करें AI अपने तर्जुमा से कर देगी तो उसको फिर दोबारा रीडिंग करनी पड़ती है, हैं? उसको फिर एडिटिंग करनी पड़ती है, क्योंकि AI के पास तो उतना ही कैपेसिटी है ना जितनी उसको आपने फीड की हुई है।
So I'll translate a little bit of what Hazur just said, which is basically that, you know, AI can be used for good, but needs to be used intelligently. And Hazur said that Jamaat is using AI as well in translation processes for our books. But he emphasized that we're reviewing all of the outputs of these translations to make sure, especially because these are religious books, that the translations are actually accurate and good. And I'll play another part of Hazur's answer here.
दे दोगे तो वो गलत है। हाँ, जहाँ एक हद तक जो तुम्हारे कंट्रोल में है AI को इस्तेमाल करो, इसमें बुराई नहीं है, लेकिन टोटली इसके ऊपर डिपेंड कर लोगे और इस पे गलत काम लेने शुरू कर दोगे, इनको लोगों को डिफेम करना शुरू कर दोगे, डिसग्रेस करना शुरू कर दोगे इस ज़रिए से और गलत फेक किस्म की खबरें बनानी शुरू कर दोगे तो वो गलत हो जाता है। ठीक है, अच्छे काम लेने हैं तो ले सकते हो उससे। ठीक है, हम भी इसे रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, मरकज़ भी रिसर्च कर रहा है, छोटे मोटे काम बाज़ दफ़ा हमारे लोग ले लेते हैं और मज़ीद रिसर्च हो रही है। तुम लोगों को एमसीओ को रिसर्च करनी चाहिए इस पर और इसका जो अच्छा इस्तेमाल है वो अगर करें तो इट्स गुड।
So again, in the second piece, Hazur. Sorry? I was just giving a little bit of the summary, which I think for now will suffice. If anyone wants the clip, I can send you the exact clip, which has the translation fully at the bottom. But Hazur emphasized, repeated kind of the same focus of use AI for good use cases. Make sure that we are actually reviewing the outputs and are confident about it. Hazur said that Jamaat and Markaz is doing research using AI. And Hazur encouraged that AMDs should do more research with AI and move forward good use cases with AI. Here's my clicker. Oh, and one call out from the Al-Islam team. I think we have some Al-Islam team members in the room. But if you don't know, there's a really cool Al-Islam beta site, dev.alislam.ai. where they've actually built an AI search engine for content on Al-Islam. So if you never played around with it, you should definitely make note of this site and try to use it. Next time you got to give a speech or preparing for Ijtima or something, try this first. So to go a little bit deeper in just a few minutes, I think I have 3, maybe 4 slides on kind of where my expertise and where our company plays. So to give you a little bit of context, I mentioned at the beginning that some of the access challenges of the country are that people can't get the kinds of appointments they need at the right time, quickly enough. And there are long wait times. And almost every hospital system, especially in urban, suburban, and even more so actually in rural areas, just have long wait lists and they really struggle to get people into the right point of care. But when we look at the actual data, which we do with many of our customers, we see that 28+%, nearly a third of visits that happen in an outpatient setting didn't really need to happen with that provider that the patient saw. So hospital systems are full. You have a long wait list of patients, but 1 out of every 3 patients that a doctor is seeing in an outpatient setting, that particular doctor maybe didn't even need to see that patient, at least in that context. So that's a major problem, right? Like you're full, but you're full of the wrong stuff, and meanwhile there are huge wait lists of people actually waiting to get in. So how do you deal with this kind of supply-demand mismatch problem, right? Like you need to get better at just making sure that patients go to the right point of care and that the right provider is actually delivering the right resources to the patient so that you don't kind of clog the system with a lot of inefficiency. And that's the general backdrop of ClearStep in my company and the problem that we aim to solve. And if we do that, then on the right, there's kind of these bulleted things. What can we do? We can create better in-person availability for people we need it. We can address provider shortages by making sure that providers are actually spending their time more effectively. We can ensure that virtual care is used maximally and most appropriately so that we can save time for the people that actually need to go in person. And we can minimize, administrative time. So the way that we do this at my company, ClearStep, and I think it was mentioned in the intro, alhamdulillah, we've grown pretty significantly in the last 6 years. We started the company towards the end of 2018. And since then, we're working with over 300 hospitals across the country. We're touching patients in all 50 states. And we're operating at scale with the system. And the way it works is when a patient, the way it has worked traditionally is digital. When patients go on the website or they go into their patient portal and they're trying to book an appointment or trying to look for care, they're first met with ClearStep. And they describe what they're looking for, they describe their symptoms. We do a symptom analysis that drills down into, okay, you're having a migraine or whatever it might be. It can literally be anything that someone comes to the table with, and we ask follow-up questions to understand what's the acuity, is this an emergency, can this wait, what kind of provider should it go to, within what period of time should they be seen, and even down to considering what's your insurance and what's the availability within the system, or is there somewhere else that you should go? So we're trying to put AI at the beginning of the care-seeking process to more intelligently, frankly, than someone on a phone can, really navigate and guide people to the right point of care. And I mentioned in the subtitle that we're leveraging, alhamdulillah, the principles that are underscored by Huzur Anwar that we just heard of validating. The reason why we have grown so well and why we're operating at scale in this way and why we're so confident that our results are accurate is because when we started the company, we struck a partnership with these authors of these nurse triage protocols. For 30 years, when you call a hospital and you end up talking to a nurse, they're going off of these gold standard protocols that have been refined in like 300 million phone call encounters, and they've been used at scale for many decades. And we managed to strike this very unique partnership with those authors to get access to those protocols, and we built our AI starting from there. So when we go to these hospital systems, they trust our AI because we say the same content your nurses are using when they pick up the phone to talk to patients, that's the same information that they're gonna get when they use our AI, because we've created guardrails around that, and we've allowed, so we use this gold standard information to actually deliver, and it has a high degree of trust and accuracy. We have a lot of other validation processes involved as well. This is the last slide. But it was mentioned that voice is probably the hottest subfield in AI. And we too are really hitting the gas pedal on voice AI. I mentioned that these call centers that big hospital systems spend hundreds of millions of dollars on. It's not over $100 million. Most of our customers spend over $100 million on a call center to make sure that there's people staffed, there's nurses that are available that can talk to patients. So what we're doing now, and we think, frankly, I'm literally betting the future of the company on this use case. It's so important because right now the problem is we're just digital, and most people aren't actually going into the patient portal or going on the website to find care. They're calling. They're just directly calling. So we're about to launch this. This is actually a recent video that we just made. By the end of the year, this will be operating at scale within call centers, that when you call and try to get advice, you'll actually be met with our AI that will initially then hand off to a nurse, but eventually will just fully automate the whole thing. So I won't play this whole thing, and like I said, this is my last thing, but just to give you a sense of how sophisticated this is. Like, this is a pretty advanced interaction with highly accurate clinical information that isn't just a beta. This is actually going live, with major hospital systems.
If this is a medical emergency, please hang up and dial 911. All calls are recorded for quality assurance. Hi, this is Alice. I'm an AI medical assistant on Nurse Line. Are you calling for yourself or someone else?
For myself.
Are you having any type of medical emergency, like crushing chest pain, severe shortness of breath, new onset numbness or weakness, or uncontrolled bleeding?
No.
Okay, how can I help you?
I'm having lower left back pain that's radiating to my hip, thigh, and leg.
I'm so sorry to hear that you're experiencing back pain. Can you tell me a bit more about it? How long has this been going on?
It's been going on and off for weeks or months.
Have you seen a doctor for this back pain? And if so, what did they think it was?
Yes, I have. They think it might be my sciatica, but it's just been getting worse and it's pretty severe right now, so I'm not sure what to do.
It can be really frustrating when symptoms persist or worsen over time. When did you last see your doctor about this issue?
Probably a month or two ago.
I'm gonna skip ahead. But obviously you can tell there's kind of a back and forth interaction. Press play again.
I'd say it started a day ago, and no, I don't have a fever.
So the pain started about a day ago. Have you tried anything that helps, like Advil or a heating pad? And is the pain mostly in your back, or is it also in your leg?
I've tried Advil and Tylenol. They didn't really help. Neither did a heating pad or a hot shower, maybe a little bit. And I'd say, yeah, it's in my lower left back, and then it radiates down.
It sounds like you've tried a few things to help manage the pain, but it's still quite severe. Do you have any trouble urinating?
And then, yeah, I'm having pretty bad trouble walking. It's hard for me to put weight on the leg.
Marcus, based on what you've told me, it sounds like you're having some significant symptoms that need to be evaluated further. Trouble walking and bearing weight on your leg can be a sign of a serious condition. I think it would be best for you to go to the emergency room to get checked out. Is there someone who can drive you there?
Yes, there is. I can have one of my family members take me.
So I'll stop there, but you can see there's an emergency use case. AI detects it, triages it, makes sure they have a way to get to the emergency room. If not, they would dispatch an ambulance. And if this wasn't an emergency, then the caller would be encouraged to not go to the emergency room, to schedule an appointment with their primary care or go to an urgent care, whatever the right next step would be. So some really interesting use cases. As this is deployed at scales, it means complete shifts in the way that access to healthcare works for these big hospital systems. So that's, I think I just have a key takeaway slide, which is, one, AI use case in healthcare are already growing really rapidly. And there's this potential to positively impact care access and delivery within the near term. We should draw insight from the Quran and Hazrat Khalifatul Masih's guidance on how we can go deeper into these fields. And then the last point is just what I kind of just showed, that AI is and will increasingly power these digital and voice front doors to care. So Jazakallah for listening. Happy to take any questions at the right time.
Jazakallah, Adeel Sahab. Really interesting talk. I really enjoyed it. I think a lot of potentials for healthcare, a lot of potential for al-Islam and applications there. I really enjoyed that. So hold your questions again. We'll save them in the last, last 10, 20 minutes. We're going to go on to our next speaker, Dr. Rafi Ahmad Sahab. He's going to talk about generative AI and imaging. Dr. Rafi Sahab.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So this is about generative AI and imaging, a very specific topic. But I thought that a little bit of background is important. So this is the outline. So what is artificial intelligence and what is its relationship with machine learning and deep learning? So this is the Venn diagram which tells you about it. And the various definitions are given And I'm not going to read out everything, but it is important to understand what this is. Deep learning, or what we see, what we are talking about, is not all AI, it's a subset of it. So what is it based on? What is generative AI systems? So after all, it's a program written in some programming language. But its architecture, that it is based on certain algorithms. And those algorithms are based on, generally, mathematics and logic. So when you hear about AI, you hear about deep learning, and perhaps you have heard about artificial neural network. This is a common algorithm which is used for deep learning, especially for generative AI, artificial neural network. And it is inspired by the human brain. And this is the general structure. So you have input layer, output layer, and there is one layer in the middle in the picture. But there can be a large number of layers. So it's a very deep system, and that's where deep learning, the phrase deep, comes from. And it uses some mathematics, as it is mentioned here. So recent accolades for AI. Turing Prize is the prize given for achievements in computer science. It's the Nobel Prize of computer science. So in 2011, a Turing Prize was given. Then 2018, a Turing Prize was given to Yoshua Benigo, Yan LeCun, and Geoffrey Hinton for deep learning. What is most surprising and inspiring is that in 2024, last year, the physics Nobel Prize was given to Geoffrey Hinton and his colleague John Hopfield, a first in the history of physics and computer science. And the chemistry prize, Nobel Prize, also went to the people who were behind AlphaFold. AlphaFold is the system which solved the very intractable problem of protein folding. So this is the first in history. So this much about the background. So what is generative AI? So you have an image. This is an image generated by generative AI. For computer or computer program, an image is nothing but a grid of tiny dots called pixels, and each with a binary code for the color and for intensity values. So it's a generative AI that creates or modifies visual content. And there are many aspects of it. And since I talked about deep learning, because generative AI uses deep learning and artificial neural network. And these are some common tools which are publicly available, which people use. So there are many applications. There are applications in art, application in medical imaging, and fashion, design, film, animation, and so on. So these are the four prominent or commonly used algorithms used for image generation. And underneath these algorithms, some very hardcore mathematics is used. So medical imaging. Medical imaging is a very fast-growing area which synthesizes one kind of medical images like MRI into CT and CT back to MRI and PET CT into PET. There is a work which is being done in the other direction too, but it is not quite reliable yet. So it helps in drug discovery. It helps in improving diagnosis, lowering cost, and of course, reduced radiation exposure. So here is an image generated by DAL-E, which is a system, given a verbal prompt, just a verbal prompt. This is another image which I generated using ChatGPT, actually, which is underneath it uses a DAL-E by giving a verbal command, one-line verbal command. The other one is commonly, I don't know what verbal prompt they used for the first one. So these are beautiful images, and that image, which I generated myself, I came back in maybe 4 or 5 seconds. But there are a lot of questions, right? It can assist the artists. There are systems based on transformers, which is a kind of artificial neural network. But there are claims that these art is essentially a high-tech form of plagiarism, because deep learning is based on learning somebody else's art. And now after having learned that art, it generates that art very easily and very quickly, but still, it's plagiarism. And then there is a more deep question. Is it really art? Without agency, without purpose, without a theory. So these are questions, especially coming from artists. Obviously, they're not very happy what these systems can do, right? So what are challenges and what are the risks? Deepfakes, of course, everybody knows about deepfakes and misinformation. That is a big problem. Bias, meaning it learns from the data, labeled data, unlabeled data. But somebody has to provide that data. If the data is biased, its conclusion will be biased. What it produces will be biased. Copyright and ownership, the question of plagiarism comes in. So there is an urgent need for transparency and responsible AI use. The Holy Quran and generative AI. So this is the verse from Al-Ra'd, verse 17, which says, that can the blind and seeing be equal? Or can darkness and light be the same? Or do they assign to Allah partners who have created the like of His creation, so that the two creations appear indistinguishable to them? Tell them, Allah alone is the creator of all things, and He is the single and the most supreme. Because when you read AI literature, this word or this phrase like godlike appears. And then there has been talked about super intelligence or AI surpassing human intelligence. And people are saying it will happen in 1 year or it will happen in 2 years. Hasn't happened yet. And in my humble opinion, it can never happen. Because the reason is, as it implied in this verse, the creation of God is not indistinguishable from creation of man. And in my view, it is impossible for artificial general intelligence to ever attain human level intelligence, let alone surpass it. So that is my takeaway, conclusion. It is revolutionizing things. More powerful and sophisticated tools will be there soon. And there are, of course, deepfakes, threats from there. So responsible development is essential for sustainable progress. Jazakallah.
Jazakumullah asnal jaza for all three of our presenters today. Mashallah, that was very interesting. I think each of the presentations, I think they touched on both the benefits and the harms of AI, how we can use AI responsibly, what are some of the applications of AI in terms of increasing our worldly knowledge, perhaps also our spiritual knowledge, religious knowledge. Dev.alislam.ai. I think that was a really interesting tool. We're going to open it up to questions. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. We'll go one by one. Try to keep your question very brief. We only have 9 minutes left. So try to be very concise. If you want to direct your question at a speaker, please mention who you want to direct at. Yeah. Well, what we'll do is we'll actually start with the lady side. So, Dr. Nusrat, on the lady side, if there are any questions, we can go one by one. Here I saw about 3 or 4 hands up. So, let's start with the ladies.
Assalamu alaikum. At this time, we don't have any questions.
Okay, Jazakallah. So, yeah, come up here and then you can, or I don't know if the or maybe it's long enough.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much for these enlightening presentations. Now my question first is to, I forgot your name. Yeah, you said on one side, basically my question is the manpower resources versus monetary resources. And you mentioned that on one side the one man can work 3 or even 10 can work for 50 perhaps, using these AI tools. However, when it comes to the budget, you said it was going to increase from 3 to 50% or something. So that's where my question is, how come these two things can match? Can I ask the second question also for Adeel Sahab? Okay, for Adeel Sahab, you gave a very good example of what model you are creating for sorting out the directing the patients to the right place or something. That's what if I understood right. But listening to that, it gave me, made me a little bit nervous, and I'm saying, well, now the whole system is becoming unreliable, because the machine is talking to me, and I'm not sure what it is going to do. So I don't know. That's my kind of concern. Thank you.
Yeah, just try to be brief.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. So the thing is that basically, so the reason is how software engineering is done right now, and how it can be done using these latest tools. there's a huge room for improvement, huge room for making things better, more efficient way of programming. Because what happens now is the CEO of Anthropic, ChatGPT's competitor, said that 90% of the code will be written by AI by the end of this year, and I think that's acceptable. The reason is that code writing, the low-level code writing, now is something that AI can do really well. It's a bit like initially in 1980s, a lot of the code writing was the low-level code writing. Now we do high-level code writing in, say, Python and C# and stuff. And what's happening is we are now going to an even higher level of code writing. So software engineers become like software architects. So that's where one software engineer can basically do the work of 3 software engineers of how they're currently working. So then the future software engineer would be doing different work. That's what I'm saying. Now, in terms of the budget, how it would go from, say, 7% to 50% is that in the 7% scenario, what happens is you have software engineers only doing software writing or maintenance of code, which is not really it doesn't have a big ROI, okay? Whereas marketing and sales normally have bigger budgets. Even finance and operations have normally much, much bigger budgets from their revenue perspective. So when AI is able to do those jobs, then what's going to happen is it's basically AI would be doing those jobs or assisting in those jobs. So then more money would be spent on hiring AI engineers or software engineers who can do that sort of thing. That's where the budget is going to increase, because if AI is able to do that, then we need different kind of people who are able to automate stuff in sales and marketing. That's basically it.
Zach, there's a very good question about the risks, and you're very right. There is a lot of uncertainty and questions as to what does the future look like and will it be reliable and trustworthy. The way we often position it, and I tried to touch on this a little bit in my talk, is the language we often use when we talk to a chief medical officer of a health system who's very concerned on this exact topic is that we operate and build on stepping stones of trust. And step 1 is, even when you call and if you were to be talking to a nurse, that nurse is following protocols. They're not just freestyling it. They're following existing algorithms. So we use those same algorithms, right? That's step 1 of stepping stones of trust. Step 2, with this voice demo that I showed, is that initially, even though I showed in the voice demo that the AI is giving the triage and the next step recommendation, initially how we're going to be launching this is it's not going to tell the patient the recommendation, it's going to hand off to a nurse and summarize all the information that we collected to save the nurse time. Right now, those calls take on average 15 minutes for a nurse. We think since the AI would have done all of that, it can be a 3-minute call. They summarize information and they say, oh, this is what we think, you should go to the ER, or whatever the next step is. Then, once we show that, hey, that is performing at the level, if not better, than a nurse, than your average nurse, then you can fully automate it. So the point is, I think that, at least with us, not everyone's taking this approach, but at least the way we view it is you have to build on stepping stones of trust and make sure you're not taking leaps of faith into the future that hopefully this will work. You have to prove incrementally at every step of the way that this is working, it's working better, it's driving better outcomes, etc.
Okay, we have maybe time for just 2 quick questions, so try to keep it very, very brief. Okay. I think I did see Asin Saab, so I'll go to him first.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Excellent presentations. Question to Adeel Bhai. I see tremendous utility of your startup. I am an oncologist, and we have actually triaged our, or deferred our triage to like a third world country where there are nurses sitting and going through the same algorithm, and I find it extremely ineffective, right? So if you have a setup that actually can summarize everything, reach out to my team, I'll be able to, I think, act upon it and probably just kind of refine the recommendations. Question to you, 2 questions actually. 1, can you also have this triage more like specialized, like for example, for specialty care oncology?
The answer is yes. We're not really doing it right now, but
Okay.
The answer is yes. It's about the access to the right data, right?
Got it. So Adeel bhai said yes, they'll be working on it, I guess. Okay. Second question, are you still looking for investments?
Okay, not at the moment. Jazakallah. Muzaffar Saab, please. Yeah. Try to keep her question brief. We're almost at the end, 1 minute left. So.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the wonderful presentations. My question goes to the first presenter. Please your name again. Yes. I think you made mention of. Okay, I wanted to ask that AI is growing rapidly. It's like every day or every week there is a new model, there's new ways. So my question is that, what would be your advice to someone who have no background in AI and wants to learn AI? Where should he start from? And my second question goes to all the three of you, but I would be happy if the test speaker can answer it. My question was, it sounds like AI is being hyped so much that everybody should go into AI, but we still need the intelligence of a human being. So do you encourage people to still do the normal education of taking different courses, or should the young ones coming up just do AI? Jazakallah.
So the question was that the question for me was what do we do if someone wants to get into AI? So for that, there's two things. If you are quite young, then definitely go into STEM, so the hard sciences. That's one thing, and or computer science, or basically take a computer science sort of course. Second is that look into philosophy and critical thinking. That's one thing. Because those are the skills needed to, at least for now, from what we understand, to create systems or prompt systems, engineer systems that are really, really good. Second is, if you are much older and you are not able to do computer science right now or any STEM degrees, then I would say that you need to at least do some courses on knowing, again, some sort of either communication skills courses, critical thinking, and even say philosophy, to understand, to be able to sort of communicate well with AI. That's really, really powerful. And yeah, I would highly encourage, not highly, but it's like absolutely necessary that you have the education. Even go to the PhD level if you are, don't avoid that. It's not like AI is going to basically do all the job for you. You have to develop your own thinking skills as well. Just another point that Hazur actually mentioned in one of the this week's sessions, that look at DeepSeek, right? Chinese developed DeepSeek, and Hazur was saying that you guys need to be as good engineers as those DeepSeek Chinese engineers, and that basically requires a lot of education. Okay, so yeah.
Dr. Rafi, do you want to quickly?
Assalamu alaikum. So AI has always suffered from hype. Hype, hoopla, hyperbole, and from the very beginning. So there is hype, and one should be able to distinguish between what AI can really do and what the hype is. And I am all for education, as Zain Sahab mentioned. When he says philosophy, I would qualify it with analytical philosophy, logic and analytical philosophy. Yes, and AI is not going to do everything. As my presentation emphasized, that beneath the AI system, there is algorithm. And there is mathematics. So people who know those fields, they are going to succeed. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. And I think with that, we'll close the session. But Jazakallah to all of our speakers. I really enjoyed this presentation. A lot of good insights on current status of AI, where it's headed, what are the limitations. I really appreciated the comment about, the verse from the Holy Quran. Ultimately, it's human intelligence, Allah's creation, should be respected. With that, I would say Jazakallah. We're going to still have all of the speakers around, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to engage them offline. Now we're going to head to lunch. 12 o'clock to 1:30 is a lunch. The men's lunch is going to be in Bethesda Hall A and B, and the women's lunch is in the Hall C and D, Bethesda Hall C and D downstairs. Jummah Namaz is going to start at 1:30 p.m. That's in the room Rosedale for the men and Wisconsin for the women. And our next session, our plenary session, is going to start at 3:15 with the topic of preparedness, engineering new communities, and rebuilding affected communities. And that'll be in the same hall where the lunch will be. So Bethesda A and B for men, C and D for women. Jazakallah.
It's funny, there's a Canadian Adeel Malik that worked for Dr. Zainull.